host today, and we're going to have some amazing young ladies that are just going to talk a little bit about what we can do for coping, what we can do in terms of our healing and our mental health right now in very difficult times. So, Jessie, without further ado, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Tonika, and thank you everybody for joining us today. This is going to be such a special conversation that is really important right now. But before we begin, we have a couple housekeeping things. Let's have everyone that's viewing share your name in the comments and where you're viewing from. And if you think of any questions for any of our presenters, feel free to type them into the comments and we'll do our very best to get to them all when we get to the end of our discussion. And as a very happy thing, please stick around to the end of the conversation because, well, it's going to be a beautiful conversation in general, so you'll want to, but also because at the end of the panel discussion, Jaimi will be gifting us with a short yoga meditation to combat anxiety. So let's get into it. This session tonight is going to be focusing on a very sensitive, but a very much needed subject. In this time of tremendous uncertainty, our group of amazing mentors, counselors, and medical professionals have and continue to impact everyone around them so positively, all while being super wives, moms, instructors, and community givers. So how do they manage to help so many people? How do they keep their mental health together while carrying the responsibility of helping others? And what are some of the issues they face if they face with if they don't have time to take care of their mental health? So let's find out. First of all, before we get started, let's start off with some introductory questions. I'm going to call on each of our guests one at a time to introduce themselves with their name, title, and the name of their business. So very quickly, let's start off with Tonika, since she got us started. Just remind everybody what the name of the business is and where you are.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And so my name is Tonika Bruce. I'm a registered nurse and also doctoral student. I'm in the Tampa, Florida area, and just happy to be on the live chat with these amazing, wonderful women. And I'm so excited, especially right now with the climate as it is. This is just really a time of outstanding healing and conversation with this issue.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Tonika. All right, Sonia, tell us, remind us of your name, your title, and the name of your business, Sonia.
My name is Sonia Slaba, and I'm a nurse anesthetist and a nurse practitioner, and I'm a co-owner of a ketamine clinic called Advanced Infusion and Wellness Center.
Thank you so much. All right, Keisha, talk to us about where you are, what your name and title of your business is.
Good evening. My name is Keisha McClish. I am a master's marriage and family therapist. I work at the Crisis Center for Calm Care, and I am also a part of the Mental Health First Responders Association.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, and Dara, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Dara Harvey, and I am a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. I work for a private outpatient Prairie View, and I have been an instructor at Butler Community College teaching nursing students, and I'm also a doctoral nurse practitioner nurse student as well.
Amazing. And we are going to be getting into how all of you handle all of these things because there's so much on everybody's plate. But let's start off with some general questions. First of all, what inspired you to want to work in mental health therapy? Keisha, maybe can you speak to that?
Yes, I can. That is a very heavy and very broad question. Just personally, there were some things that I knew I needed to deal with mentally and didn't understand the resources that were available to me to deal with those things. So just my life experience wanted me to help those that had depression, help those that had suicidal thoughts and ideation, help those that were in crisis. So just me walking through that area in my life, I felt that I could lend a hand and help those deal with those types of things. So that's why I got into mental health.
It's such a noble cause too. Thank you so much. Okay, let's bring it to another question. What is one misconception you've heard and you want to clarify about mental health therapy? Maybe Sonia, do you want to take that one?
Sorry. Sure. Oh man, sorry. I would probably say the biggest one, or the one that I think about the most, is the thought that people who have mental illness comes from weakness, or it's a sign of weakness, when it couldn't be further from the truth. We have people that live every single day suffering from an invisible disease that nobody can see or hear or test. So that's the one misconception.
That's a big one. Thank you so much. All right, so that leaves you, Dara. What's we know that you're very successful in your practice. What is one thing that you would tell an aspiring student or instructor or mental health practitioner?
Well, two things real quick. I'll try. I saw a license plate today when I was out running errands, and it said, "I love taking time for me." And that's a big thing. We really need to make sure that we take time for ourselves. We're really great at assessing our clients and our patients, but we need to assess ourselves, make sure that we're meeting our needs. We're not tired. We're not getting angry or having attitude in places that we shouldn't. So make sure that you take that time for yourself and assess yourself, because that's the only way we can prevent burnout, take care of our clients.
I love it. Thank you so much. Kind of like the theory of putting your mask on first when the plane's going down. Love that. All right.
Exactly.
Well, thank you all so much. That was a great introduction from all of you. Let's go ahead and bring it into our planned discussion now. Let's start off with Sonia. Sonia, you've been a guest with us before, and we didn't really dive much into the aspects of mental health at that point and how you impact that community. So share your story with us and why this particular aspect is so near and dear to your heart.
I lost my brother to suicide in 2015, and the thought that he felt so alone in a family that is so loving and caring for each other really made me delve more into the mental aspect of healthcare, and that's what started my passion and drive to learn about mental health.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That's a heavy one. Keisha, let's talk to you a little bit. You've got some impressive letters in your title. What do those mean? How do you contribute most to the mental health community?
Yes, I have my master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I am a crisis case manager, so I deal on the level of people experiencing crisis problems. And I also am a mental health first aider. So in rural areas, I am assigned to those that would need to reach out to mental health first aiders before they can get to a therapist or they can get to a hospital and things like that. So I direct them to those resources before they get into an area where they can't get any help or they need some help, additional help in those times of need.
That is incredible. Thank you so much. Dara, you are a student, an instructor, and a mental health practitioner. You get the weight from all the angles. How do you help and encourage or inspire someone in a similar situation during these times of pandemic?
I really try to tell people to, first of all, find something in your life, some sort of, whether it be your religion or spirituality, something that gives you hope, that gives you something to strive for, but something that also helps to empower you when you're feeling very weak and worn out. You know, you have to be able to connect to some sort of spirituality or religion that will then help you to recharge.
Yeah. We were talking to somebody recently about that sense of community that you get from those different things, and community is it's good in normal times to lend a longer life. Just imagine how helpful it is now. So thank you so much. That's awesome.
Sure.
All right, Sonia, let's get back to you. You are seeing things from so many angles right now as well. You are a CRNA, a mom, a community leader, a business owner, entrepreneur. What makes you go, and what can you say to others that are struggling in business and their situations right now that'll offer them some hope and positive advice?
Well, first, I didn't become all of those at one time. So I was a CRNA first, then a mom, then a business owner, and then an entrepreneur. So it kind of built up, one by one. So it wasn't like I started everything all at once. And I've just been fortunate enough to be dragged along, I guess, with people's other endeavors. I've just been fortunate enough to be surrounded with people that have asked me to join their organizations. And of course, I have loved anything mental health related in our community. I'm always up for. So as far as what advice do I give to business owners, I think it's very important that you are passionate about your business or anything that you take on, because during the difficult times, if you're passionate about it, it makes those times more tolerable or easier to get through. So just find something that you're passionate about.
Yeah, so true. All right, Keisha, you're a first responder. Tell us a little bit about what that is, your organization, and why it's so important. I know you touched a bit on that in your last answer, but go into that a little bit more deeply.
Being a first responder, I'm a first responder to the rural areas. So I am a part of the Kansas Farmers Union. And in those rural areas, you have farmers that have limited resources as far as mental health is concerned. So I am the first person they respond to in order to help them in any type of crisis. So just being a first responder, they would contact me and I would connect them with the resources that they need for a higher level of care and anything that they would need as far as therapy services and just any type of mental health services that they would need. So I would be the connection that they would need in order to better themselves.
Just as a follow-up to that, how is that different than in a city? What is that specific difference? Is it just...
Oh, it's a lot different than the city. Living in the rural areas, like you're just limited to everything. There's a Wi-Fi limitation. There's hospitalization that's limited. You may have a hospital that's many of miles away that you can't get to. You may have to go into the city for all of your resources. You may have to go into the city for hospitalization. You may have to go into the city for therapy services. Right now, it's a little difficult for our rural areas to tap into those therapeutic resources because of like telehealth now with the COVID and with the pandemic, everything going to telehealth. So if Wi-Fi is limited to them, it's difficult for them to tap into their computers and their phones in order to receive therapy services. So it's a lot different. It's a lot different. It's more limited to those rural areas.
Yeah.
And then you have an increase in depression and things like that because of limitation to those resources.
Yeah, that's an important distinction, and they're very lucky that the organization exists that you're a part of. So
yes.
All right, Dara, how difficult is it for you to be on the front lines as well as a parent and a wife all at the same time?
Well, we're always juggling multiple roles, and I think that you kind of have some carryover into the different roles as well. I think that having the training that I've had through school myself, it helps me in my roles as a wife and a mother also. COVID is, affects everybody in their families, and we're just all trying to keep everybody safe, trying to assess our families, make sure that their mental health is good, and that we're taking that time, like I said, to recharge, not get cabin fever right now, and those kind of things, and just kind of enjoy our time together. If we have to be stuck in the house together, let's do something that we all enjoy, whether it's listen to music or garden or something like that. You've got to find those things that you can do together with your family, and take care of yourselves. And then I always give those same kind of tips to my clients. You know, I don't ask my clients to do anything I'm not going to do for myself or my family.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sonia, you have a ketamine clinic. What is that? You have so many people trying to get into it. So tell us a little bit about it and why there's such a need for that.
Absolutely. So ketamine is an old anesthetic that was approved like in the 1970s. And in the late 1990s and early 2000s, they discovered that it was helping people for mood disorders. So we use it as an IV infusion for people who have treatment-resistant depression or post-traumatic stress disorder.
So is there a specific type of client that is ideal for that in addition to having those types of disorders, or is it just specifically for those disorders?
Right now, the IV infusions are not even FDA approved for depression and mood disorders, but we treat depression and PTSD, and that would be treatment-resistant depression, meaning they have tried at least two antidepressants and failed them. There's also the Spravato, which is the nasal spray, and that is approved by the FDA for treatment-resistant depression currently. So our typical patient would be somebody who has tried other medications in the past and has failed them, which is very sad that that wouldn't be a first-line treatment since we've had no new antidepressant medications for over 50 years.
Wow. Wow. Well, it's exciting. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I should say we have had new antidepressants, just no new antidepressants that work differently than their old antidepressants.
Right. Right. But it's exciting that things are being understood more in that field as well. That's hopeful for a lot of people, I'm sure. All right. So, Keisha, let's go back to you. What advice can you give the many that need help right now but are afraid to ask, or what should they be asking for? How do you recognize when it's time to ask?
As far as the mental health providers or a client?
Oh, you know, that's a really interesting distinction. Let's make you tackle them both.
Okay. As far as both the client and the mental health provider, like my colleague had said on the panel, it's not a weakness to ask for help. I think we get stuck in a rut of thinking I'm weak, I'm not valued, I'm less than. And then we find our strength, or we put on that Superman jacket or coat, trying to navigate through everything that we're trying to go through, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's any type of stressor that we have. But just to know that there are people around you and with you and that surround you that want to hold your arms up in this pandemic and anything that you're going through. So there's not a weakness in asking for help. As far as the mental health provider, I think we have to evaluate what our feelings are. We talk to our clients about what are you feeling and what's going on in your body. Sometimes we take and we put that in the back seat for ourselves and not being able to evaluate those things of what our body is saying when we are stressed out, when we are feeling like we're in crisis. So as far as a mental health provider, I think we need to implement those things that we tell our clients more often. As far as a client is concerned, just connecting with a good mental health provider, one that you can build rapport and relationship with, and to know that you try and you try again. Mental health providers are not cookie cutters, and to know that there is somebody that you will click with, because it's building a rapport, it's building a relationship. So just try and try again. It's not like I said, a cookie cutter where you find just that one provider that you have to stick with, or that you are obligated to, but find somebody that can grow with you, that can navigate through things with you, and that you can work through and reach goals and get plans with.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like people go, or at least I know for myself, my feeling would be, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have a friend that just told me that her air conditioning just broke and she's had 4 different companies try to come out and fix it. She had no qualms about asking a different AC guy to come out. Why would
Right.
they have that issue? This is so much more important that you click with the right person. So that's
Exactly.
excellent advice. Thank you so much. All right, Dara, what inspires you the most and what types of clients do you feel you impact the most? I know that's a 2-part question, but they kind of go hand in hand.
Oh gosh, if I can remember to try to get both of those answered. Inspires me the most, I'm gonna say my family. My husband, we've been married 25 years, our kids, I just want I want them to be proud of me and the work that I do and the fact that I help people and that I make a difference in the world. And I think with my clients, I think I want to make a positive impact in their life. I want to challenge them. I don't just provide medications. I want to challenge my clients. I want to inspire them to want more out of their lives than what they've currently had or had in the past. And so I think that, when I one of the things I've always had on my office door, is that when they come in, I want them to smile, but I want them to leave, in a better place than where they came when they came in, and that's what I just try to do with everybody I meet and come across with.
I love it. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to open this up again. That's the end of my planned questions. You guys, that was beautiful. Thank you all so much for your insights on those. I'm going to open it up to another general question. And while we kind of touch on this, I just want to remind our viewers that if you guys have any questions for these people, now is the time to comment and let us know because they are a wonderful resource. And so if you have a question, let us know and we'll try to get to it. But while we are hanging out for that, let me just say, it's a very interesting time, I think, for new nurses entering the workforce right now. That it's an unprecedented time, and I'm sure you all had a different experience when you entered the workforce. There was not a pandemic, but do you have any advice from experience that you can offer to these new healthcare workers that are joining in such an unprecedented time? And this is for anybody. If the spirit moves, you speak up.
Well, I'll answer that. I think the biggest thing is just to simplify things, and not just new nurses, but nurses, business owners, just the same, but specifically new nurses, to just simplify it. And when you go through school, you're not taught nearly as much information about PPE you're learning right now. I mean, if you even taught that. And yes, I know that the thoughts go in, that people don't really think about, did I put it on or take it off correctly, or touch my face? Did it, did those things alter my care? You're thinking so much. And the bottom line is when we're in nursing school, you're taught to break things down. You have your charts and so forth, and you're saying, what is the disease state? And break it down into whether the side effects, whatever. It's no different in the practice. And so while everything else is going on in the world and on your shift and with the virus and things like that, it's just kind of trying to figure out ways to simplify it, looking at it as, the same, like, let me just take care of this patient. And that's the best you can do, and not necessarily be worrying about all the other things. Let me just make sure that I'm doing these things with this patient and for this patient. And that's the reason why we started this in the beginning to begin with. So.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna steal from Tonika here. Her business, the Network Nurse, for new nurses when they're coming out. Network. You don't have to do it alone. You don't have to go alone. You have a team, and you need to build that team on your floor or wherever you are. Ask other people. Ask the respiratory therapist. Ask your aides. Ask anybody. Don't think that you're alone, and make those connections with people that can help support you and guide you and build you. The first time that you're going to burn out is when you're trying to do it by yourself. And so make those connections. build upon them. I have connections with people that I work with. We meet, sometimes once a month and have dinner and just talk and kind of build each other up and say, hey, I have these frustrations. What have you done in the past? One of those people that comes to those dinners has 30 years of experience. I can get so much from that person, and I have to do that because I'm new at this too. So,
Right.
Just remember those connections and making those networks.
Yeah, that's a network nurse.
Right.
All right, and I have
Well,
a guest. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, just to tag on to that, I think it's also important that we, as the experienced I think of myself as an older nurse, that we should reach out to our new nurses or our new colleagues and tell them, hey, I'm here available for you, because we always talk about how reach out to people, but I think people who suffer from mental health, or maybe even new nurses, I know as a new nurse, I struggled. I wouldn't have asked somebody for help, but now I can maybe reach out to them and say, hey, I'm available if you have any questions or that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, beautiful. And we have a guest question here from Andrea. She says, what advice would you have for parents struggling with decisions about having their children go back to school during COVID-19? That's a very interesting, because there's a meme going around with the reaction that's the same for every parent of all three choices and none of them being a good one. So do you have any thoughts about how to help them going through that mental volleyball of what they should do?
I think first is you have to do something that you are absolutely comfortable with, whether that is keeping them home and teaching them at home or homeschooling them, or whether that's sending them to school and what's going to happen there. Nobody knows. We're all struggling with those decisions. We are too. I don't know that our professional aspects of nursing has prepared us even for those decisions.
Yeah. All right, one last question. Oh, go ahead. Yep.
And I'll touch on that. I think it's something in it, being here in Florida, I mean, we're having so many cases, Florida, 15, 17,000 in a day. And that is just, I mean, again, like Sonia said, we haven't been prepared for that. And I don't think anyone has the answers. We're just trying to make the best decisions. But I think, again, the safety is a big thing. So what happens if, we have these same questions? What happens if a teacher, has 4 kids and her 4 kids are in 4 different rooms and she's in one, and one person in the household is infected or shows signs, then, ultimately that's 5 different rooms. So it's, you're asked, well, the safety of our families shouldn't have to be such a difficult thing. Yeah. But ultimately it is, especially when for us as healthcare providers, because of the fact that, we've given this life of service, regardless whether it's good or bad, we've given ourselves to it. But ultimately at the same time too, it makes it very difficult when you're a parent, because you have to consider those things. And this time, we're no different. We have to consider ourselves now and not just the patient before ourselves. So it is a difficult thing, Andrea, with that question. And so we thank you. We don't feel any different in turn. I don't know if that helped you, but just know that we are all in this together with them.
Yeah. And just to kind of bring this to a close, are there any ways that any of you can share to help those that are in distress or feel hopeless right now? I know that's a very broad question, but I feel like there is that feeling that so many people have across the board. Is there anything that you have experienced that helps you or that can help others that you'd like to share with us?
I like to go back to the serenity prayer and kind of like, concentrate on the things that we can control. Like we can control following CDC guidelines as far as social distancing, hand washing, and that sort of thing. And we can't control what's going to happen tomorrow. And they're learning so much more about this virus from day to day. So if we can just stay in the present, I think that is helpful.
Beautiful.
I think another thing that's helpful, does anybody else want to go?
Go ahead.
I think another thing that's helpful is pulling on our strengths. Our mind can tend to go to what I can't do or what I can't have, or I'm bound to this, or this isn't good, this is not helpful. Pull on the strengths that you do have. Pull on those things that are positive and begin to reframe some of those things.
Yeah.
I would just add, try to find, happiness is one of those things that I always say waxes and wanes, but joy is something deep down inside that nobody can take from you, but you've got to find those things that feed your joy. Sometimes for me, it's 2 minutes of listening to some Christian music, or sometimes it's crazy listening to 2 minutes of some 80s music, or just walking outside and smelling the roses. Or reading some scripture, or listening to a pastor somewhere, because I can't go to church during COVID, but I can listen to pastors all over the world. Find those things that feed your joy, because that's what's going to flame your hope.
Yeah, I love it.
I think so. And yeah. I would have to say the same thing, starting your morning off. I tell people all the time, the biggest piece is starting my morning out without checking phone or email or any of those things, and just, doing my spiritual routine. And just morning routine is so important. And just giving your body a chance to just get you to your highest possible place before you fill it with everything else that's going on. And then, religiously going to yoga on Saturdays with Jaimi. And also doing my sunrise yoga with Jesse. Those things, I don't know if that's a good thing that I end up like wanting to take a nap at the beginning of the morning. Luckily, I've already got like an hour of work in, but it does really help, especially if you're experiencing some anxiety or just that buildup, because there's so many questions that go along. It's not just, what do you want to eat today? There's just so many things with it. And I know we have a couple questions. If you don't mind, let's try to answer that. It says, Nida says, speak to dealing with anxiety of having a loved one in the hospital and not being able to be present with them.
Well, my daughter actually had to have her gallbladder taken out during this whole COVID crisis, and I had to sit in the parking lot and wait and pray, for everything to go well. And that's what I did. I just sat there and I prayed, and I just, prayed for the nurses, the doctors, everybody that was taking care of her, that things would go well. And it was hard. I said, COVID really hadn't affected me too much until that. That was probably the hardest part of what COVID has done to my life, but everything turned out well. Thank the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And go ahead.
Oh, I would just like to add, I work in surgery, and so I want the family members to know that we do take extra time with the patients. We do take a little extra minute just to comfort them some more, knowing that their family members are there with them. I know that doesn't help any with the decision making, when they're in surgery or when they're in the hospital either. But as healthcare providers, we do spend a little more time with the patients.
Nice.
That's good. That is good.
And I know that we are kind of getting toward the end of our time here, but there is one last question I would love to get to from Donna. It's a completely different perspective, and it's something that I think you guys as professionals need. Her question is, as family members, what can we do to help you as a professional? What do you guys need? A spa gift certificate? What's going on?
All of that.
I need somebody to write my doctoral papers.
I didn't hear that.
Hey, you're not my instructor.
It used to be.
I would just say patience from the community or from us as just being patient with healthcare providers, knowing that that we're trying to do the best we can, and we don't like family members sitting out in cars. We don't like people sitting in the lobby not knowing about their loved ones. So just being patient with us.
Yeah, I love it.
We
All right.
talked about spirituality also. Pray for us. Pray for us.
Definitely.
Pray for, our mental stability. Pray for our tenacity. Pray for our endurance. Pray for our perseverance. Just continue to send up prayers for us.
Beautiful. Well, thank you all so much. I know we need to wrap it up, but you guys, you don't know, or maybe you do, but let's let you hear it again. The community really appreciates you. If you don't hear it enough as healthcare professionals, if they're not patient, I bet in the back of their mind, they realize that they're being jerks. We all really appreciate what you're putting out there. And again, thank you for the time that you took today. I know it's really ramping up where everybody is. So the fact that you took some time out of your schedules today it means more than you know. Thank you so much for your insight. There's so much good information in here that was helpful even for people like me that aren't in healthcare. Just beautiful thoughts and advice. So again, thank you all so much. Now, before we get to our yoga session with Jaimi, let me remind our guests of a couple of things. First of all, please mark your calendars now for our next live event. It will be on Friday, September 18th at 7:15. And stay tuned because this one is going to be really fun. I'm not going to spoil the surprise about what it's going to be, but you can check the Network Nurse Facebook page for updates as we get closer to the event. And also be sure to register through our mailing list or send a private message to Tonika, either way, because she's going to be giving away free gifts all week to members of the mailing list. And if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're a YouTube subscriber, click subscribe so you can enjoy more of this goodness down the road. Okay, so let's introduce Jaimi. Hello, Jaimi, for our ending yoga session. Jaimi, tell everybody a little bit who you are and take us into this beautiful meditation that you have created for us tonight.
I think she's muted.
And she's muted. Yep, unmute first.
Hold on.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yay, perfect.
All right. Well, first of all, I just want to thank everybody. The advice that these wonderful women have given you is just phenomenal. I think my favorite, well, first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm a trauma-sensitive yoga teacher. I work with PTSD. I work with our military. My specialties are in anxiety and depression and also in addiction and recovery. And so the advice was absolutely beautiful. And with that being said, the thing that almost I think everybody touched on was that there's no weakness in asking for help. Something that I work a lot with my clients is that anxiety is okay. We need to be in touch with our feelings and there's no shame in it. And when we have anxiety, it tells us that something is important and it to take action. And while we don't want to stay in the anxiety, it is a beautiful feeling to recognize that this is something important. This is something I need to deal with. And so the first thing is recognizing. When we do have our anxiety, we go into, our fight or flight mode. And that's when we can get those hyperventilations and, there's so much information being thrown at us and our mind is everywhere. And so it's so important, again, the lady said, to come and to ground. I heard the word ground. And so I'd love to invite everybody to join me in just a simple grounding exercise, a tool you can learn tonight, tuck in your toolbox and use any time that you might need. And so I invite everybody to just get comfortable in your chair, wherever you might be. Don't worry about a certain posture, standing tall, just being comfortable in your own skin and bringing the hands down to the knees. And if it feels safe for you, I invite you to close your eyes, or if you'd like to keep them open, to just gently gaze down at the floor, just in front of you, and just come to the present moment and notice the breath. Notice the heartbeat. And if you feel like the mind is wandering, or if you feel like that heart is beating fast, maybe bringing that right hand to the heart and the left hand to the belly. And just taking a few breaths there. No expectations, no judgment on yourself. Maybe you can feel the heartbeat with the hand. And as you start to inhale, feeling that belly press away to the front of the room. And on your exhale, maybe gently opening the lips like you're blowing out a candle, and slowly exhaling, relaxing the shoulders. And we're just going to continue with that breath 2 or 3 more times, in through the nose for 3. And blowing out that candle for 3. Good. 2 more, in and out. And 1 more, inhaling through the nose, following that cool air into the body, all the way down to the toes. And then following that warm air as it exhales and leaves the body. Good. And then just melting those hands down and gently blinking the eyes open. We're going to do a gentle grounding exercise. It's called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I invite you to look around and recognize 5 items, 5 things in your room, maybe a lamp or a clock, and just pick out 5 items. So go ahead and look around. Maybe you see something that means something to you, something special. Good. And now we're going to go to 4 things that we can feel. So maybe if those hands are resting on the pants, you can feel the material. Maybe the hair is tickling your face, or you can feel the air. What are 4 things that you can feel right now? Good. And if the eyes are open, I invite you to close them if that feels safe. And we're going to listen for 3 things that we can hear. Maybe it's the hum of your computer. Three things that you can hear. Good. 2 things that you can smell. Maybe it's your shampoo in your hair or the laundry detergent on the shirt. Maybe dinner was cooking in the next room. 2 things that you can smell. And 1 thing that you can taste. And if you can't taste anything in the mouth, maybe just think about your favorite thing to eat, something that brings you joy. Good. Just recognizing the breath, just bringing ourselves to the present moment. And then if you'd like, dropping the arms down to the side, and we're just going to take a big breath, palms to the sky, arms inhaling up to the ceiling. And as you exhale, fingers spread wide, palms coming down, almost like you're pressing through water. I want you to feel your strength. You are strong. And again, inhaling up, maybe this time growing taller in the spine. Lifting the heart. Exhale, bringing the hands down. And we're going to do one more thing. As we draw those arms up on the inhale, I invite you to picture a white light, just drawing a white circle around you. Inhaling that light like a protective bubble. Maybe that light is honoring your higher power and bringing those arms down, drawing that bubble all the way to the earth. Beautiful. Bringing those hands heart center. Thinking of that bubble as just a safe place. Any negativity that tries to enter, just let it bounce off that bubble. And taking 2 breaths in through the nose and blowing out the candles, gentle and slow. One more, in through the nose for 3. And out. Namaste means the light in me honors and respects the light in all of you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for these beautiful messages. Namaste.
Namaste. That was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Jaimi. What a wonderful way to end this conversation. I'm basking in that protective bubble right now. If you guys are like me and so many others and you find yoga helpful for your mental state, I'd love to invite you to join me as well on a Facebook group called 5 Minutes to Sunrise, where we go live at sunrise each weekday for 5 minutes of healing breath work with people like Jaimi. Thank you so much, Jaimi, again. That's it for this month's chat. Thank you all again, both to not just our panelists, but also the guests that have come out to support and to listen. And we will see you all again next time. Have a beautiful weekend, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Guys, have a good evening.
Thank you. Enjoy your weekend. Self-care.
Yes.